If there is a silver lining to the dark oil cloud, this is it. This is a wonderful group. Thank you all for coming. I want to first thank Senator Nelson for his service to our state and to Mr. Feinberg for coming to our community to address the oil spill claims. Neither of you gentlemen had to do this, and we appreciate it. We appreciate your dedication and demonstrating what has been, at most, a challenging summer. While the University of West Florida has 12,000 acres here on the main campus, and there's a bio, a couple of stones throw across from us right now, we also have 150 acres right on the Gulf of Mexico, with borders on the Gulf as well as on the bay on Santa Rosa Island. And we have experienced, as a university, the impact of the oil directly on our property, as so many businesses and citizens have across the Panhandle. The University of West Florida is the only major public university in the Panhandle, and we have a big responsibility to serve this region, its citizens, and to provide assistance to our community that they can rely on. When the oil spill first happened, we formed a team on campus to immediately respond and monitor the situation. We put up an official website. We began with Twitter as a way to get out our information on a daily basis and also to receive questions and answer them. Because of the size of our institution, of our faculty as well as our staff, we have a lot of flexibility. And we immediately began to determine what resources we could make available to those that were coming to our area. As you see, they have come and they continue to come. The first thing we did is we offered our facilities to anyone who needed them, including lodging and laboratories, boat storage, training, and we put them into the Constellation system, which was quickly generated by the State University system for visiting researchers and other groups of people as needed by the Emergency Command. Our researchers immediately went into an action mode and began the process of sampling, analyzing, evaluating, protecting, and reporting what was happening to us from Perdido Key to Walton County. I want to mention just a few of our many researchers and staff who have quickly turned their summer into the summer of oil. Dr. Dick Snyder, director of our Center for Environment, Diagnostics, and Bioremediation. As Senator Nelson knows, CEDB has a long and successful track record of handling, to say the least, difficult environmental situations in our community. He and many others related to CEDB have spent the summer taking water and sand samples from controlled sites all along the coast to track and monitor the oil situation. This timely information that CEDB has provided has been essential for several counties as well as public health departments across our region during this oil event. Dr. Will Patterson in Marine Sciences has utilized his lab, graduate students, and even his ROV that goes under the water, and to view with the camera the fish life on the reefs as well as along the bottom of the Gulf, to document the impact of the oil on the marine life in our region. We do believe that also we need to know where safe seafood lives, and we should know where to catch it first before it is brought ashore. Dr. Rick Harper, as many of you know, the director of our Haas Business Development Center, has been working with LSU, the Minerals Management Service, to determine the economic impact on our Gulf Coast. Harper has also worked with the Assistant Secretary of Commerce, Brian McGowan, Secretary of Commerce, Locke, and Secretary Napolitano as well as the Florida Senate on the oil spill issue. Mr. Jerry Cartwright and the Small Business Development Center State Network are currently working on economic strategies of our Gulf Coast businesses in the area of insurance, disaster assistance, business counseling, and bridge loans. They've been mobilized by the disaster declaration for their disaster RV. We always thought we would take it elsewhere in the state, but it's been sitting on Pensacola Beach for the last several months and doing a lot of good. Also, we have Dr. Elizabeth Benchley from our Archaeology Institute has engaged with archaeologists from the National Park Service, the Mineral Management Service, NOAA, and the Florida Division of Historical Resources to assist in developing protocols for the documentation, monitoring, and cleanup of historic shipwrecks that lie in our waters here on the Gulf Coast. We also had Peter Robinson from the university monitoring Escambia County and state emergency operations. Chastity Hobbs organized a massive beach cleanup before the oil hit. And Dr. Enid Siskin has made presentations in Washington, D.C. on environmental health aspects of the oil spill. We also modified our many summer camps that we have here on the university campus to include the potential effects of oil in our studies that the youth conducted. Finally, the integrity of our university and long-term emphasis on all things marine has been an important and key element throughout the oil spill. The baseline data that we have collected for decades is really serving as baseline data of pre-oil conditions, and it's a starting point to document the difference between the pre-oil and the post-oil conditions here in our region. I want you to know that we stand ready to assist in making our experts available as we move forward as in finding solutions. The teams we create today serve us in the future, and we will establish a healthy environment and a thriving economy once again. I could go on, but I want you to know that the University of West Florida is engaged for the long term. We'll be here serving the needs of our community. Again, thank you, Mr. Feinberg, Senator Nelson, for coming to the University of West Florida. We appreciate your service to our country. Now I want to introduce Yvonne Emerson, who is the President and CEO of the Pensacola Bay Area Chamber of Commerce. Yvonne, thank you.
Thank you, Judy, and thank you for having us here. And Mr. Feinberg, we want to thank you so much for being with us today, and you too, Senator Nelson. So from the business community, we have a lot of people here today, small, medium, and large-sized businesses, who are so anxious to ask you questions and hear some clarity from you, and it is our hope, and we know that we're going to get that from you today, Mr. Feinberg. The Chamber of Commerce has worked diligently, and we've been vigilant since the oil spill on April the 20th. We've had a lot of time to think about and see the concerns of the businesses, and everybody has been pinched, everybody has been hurt, or they know someone who has been hurt by this disaster. We've reached out from the Chamber, we've provided information and contacts, and we've recreated our tourism message and facilitated the bridge loan program with our sister counties. Before I introduce Senator Nelson, I do have some housekeeping to take care of. We drew straws, and I drew the short straw. So for our purposes this afternoon, we're asking that you all please be courteous, please be patient, and you have 2 minutes to make your remarks. You will be called on to come to the podium and make your remarks, and unfortunately, if you go over 2 minutes, I'm the gong. I'm going to say your time is up. So I drew the short straw, Judy drew the long straw. Now let me take a moment and just introduce to you someone who is so familiar to you, Senator Nelson. Senator Bill Nelson was elected to the United States Senate in November of 2000, and he already has leaned over to me and said, because of the time and the lack of time that we have, please make this short. So I'm going off script and just tell you that from day one, when the oil spill attacked us, if you will, Senator Nelson was the first person to come to us and say, how can I help? So please help me welcome Senator Nelson.
And Yvonne, thank you for your long service to this community and to the Chamber, to the business community. To Dr. Benz, thank you for your hospitality. We are at the beginning of the end, but there are still a lot of uncertainties. Clearly, there's an uncertainty of the extent of the oil underneath the surface and the effects of the chemical dispersants, and that oil and dispersants on the long-term health of the Gulf. As we speak, a research vessel manned by the University of South Florida, which is part of a 20-member consortium, including the University of West Florida, called the Florida Institute of Oceanography, is making those studies in addition to NOAA. Speaking of NOAA, Dr. Jane Lubchenco should have been here this morning, and at 1:30 she will be in Panama City announcing that she is lifting the fishing restrictions. But there's a lot of uncertainty there. Naturally, the reason we gathered today to discuss with Ken Feinberg is the uncertainty of the loss of income of individuals, of companies, and of governments. The one flaw in the setting up of this $20 billion trust fund, which is $5 billion in the first year throughout 4 years, the one flaw in my judgment is that his trust fund, through his mechanism, will not do the reimbursements to governments, whether it be the local government or the state government. And I will continue to press the administration, although this is a joint decision, primarily with BP. I will continue to press the administration, because if he has a seamless, smooth operations of compensating people and companies, then that would be a system that should be utilized to compensate governments. I see the two chairmen right here on the two adjacent, this county and the next one. And we've talked about that. Clearly, they are affected because they have reduced revenue. The state of Florida has reduced sales tax as a result of this. But that's something that we've still got to address, and it will be addressed. In the meantime, Ken Feinberg's charter, starting the 23rd of this month, is to compensate people for loss of income. Now, there are a lot of people in this audience who have come to us in the past because you've had problems with BP and you haven't been paid. And it's not only the government, there's individuals here today. What you're going to find is this process is going to smooth out. And let me tell you why. And this is my introduction of Ken Feinberg. He's the guy that settled all of the Agent Orange suits from the Vietnam War. He's the fellow that was the trust fund administrator for 9/11 after the collapse of the World Trade Center. And you can imagine how complicated that was, especially with all of the deaths that occurred from that tragedy. He is the fellow that was called upon to Virginia in the Virginia Tech massacre to solve those problems. Here we have the world's expert to step in and smooth out this process and to see that just and due compensation is given to people who have suffered, as so many of us have suffered. Ken Feinberg.
I want to thank Senator Nelson. I'm here because Senator Nelson said be here, and when Senator Nelson asks you to do something, you do it. And as many of you know, I'm back again. I've been back in Florida time and again. I'll continue to come back. You cannot do this from Washington. You have to come to the Gulf, meet with Floridians, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Texas. You've got to meet with people, hear their gripe, hear their concern, hear their uncertainty. Senator Nelson mentions my credibility doing these other projects. My credibility will last a very, very short time if the money doesn't get delivered here to eligible claimants, beginning when I take over with the Gulf Coast Claims Facility on August 23rd, less than 2 weeks away. Now, before I take questions, a reminder, and I see some very familiar faces here, very familiar. They track me down everywhere. But let me remind everybody about a few salient facts about what's going to happen on August 23rd. First, I am setting up an independent program. It is not a government program. It is not a BP program. They agreed, the federal government and BP, to fund a $20 billion fund that would be independently administered, I am beholden to neither the government nor BP. I am responsible to the people of Florida and the other Gulf states. Keep that in mind. I'm not a government official. Second, give BP some credit. They have paid out already, not out of the $20 billion, over $300 million. I don't know if Darrell Willis is here today from BP, but Darrell has led the effort by BP to already pay $300 million in claims. Now, we can do better. We can be more consistent, more efficient, with more certainty. But $300 million is not something to be looked at lightly in terms of what BT attempted to do. On August 23rd, there is no more BP claims. Gone. Now I assume responsibility for processing all claims. If you've filed a claim with BP and it's pending, you don't have to give us additional information. You don't have to copy all of that information again. I will accept those claims and process them. Now, you got to refile the claim, and I'll tell you why. You have to refile the claim because I am immediately paying out not 1 month of lost income or wages, where you have to come back each month, 6 months. So I've got to evaluate the claim. Now, you don't have to come back to one of the 35 claims facilities that are located around the Gulf. If you want to refile that claim online, you'll be able to do so. Completely online. You don't have to go to a claims facility. You can do it in the privacy of your own home. Online, electronically. There'll be a website, the Gulf Coast Claims Facility, up and running on the 23rd that will instruct you how to refile or how to file a new claim. You'll be able to access your claim to find out where it sits. You won't be shuttled around to 5 or 6 or 8 different claims adjusters. This will be one stop to process that claim. Now, this claims facility, this independent facility that I'm going to set up, is entirely voluntary. Nobody is required to go into this facility if you don't want. You don't have to file a claim. If you want, you can file a lawsuit or a claim against BP. You can go to court. You're not obligated to join this process. That's your choice. But I suggest to you that this process will be quicker, more generous, and more efficient than any other remedy that you might seek. I start in terms of eligibility by asking myself, what would the Federal Pollution Control Act or the law of the state of Florida say about your claim? And I've decided that I want to be, in this fund, more generous and more accommodating than if you filed a lawsuit under the law of the state of Florida or under the federal law governing the Oil Pollution Control Act. I believe that if you have a claim, you would be well advised to file it with this new process. You will get quicker, more generous treatment than if you file a lawsuit with BP. Now, what happens when you file your claim? Well, between now and Thanksgiving, you can seek emergency money of up to 6 months lost income. 6 months. And you waive absolutely no rights that you may have. None. Well, do I have to waive my right to sue BP? Absolutely not. The emergency money will be made available to any eligible claimant who can prove their claim. I mean, you got to document your claim. I'm ever vigilant about fraud. I've got to worry about undocumented claims. But if you have an eligible claim and you document it, you will be paid within 24 hours for individual claims and within 7 days for business claims. Up to 6 months, lost income, lost wages, with no requirement that you release BP or anybody, without any requirement that you waive any of your rights. Now, months from now, after Thanksgiving, into next year, the year after, you can come back to this program and say, now I want a lump sum payment for all of my current and future loss. The fund will offer you a lump sum check for all of your current and future loss. But in return, only then do you waive your right to sue BP. You don't need to take this money. You can take the emergency money, 6 months, walk away. But if you want full and final payment for all prospective loss as well as current loss, next year or the year after, when you know more about your situation, come in, file a claim, and if you accept the check that's offered, then you waive your right to sue BP. Your choice. 100% your choice. Now, Dr. Benz, I was listening carefully. She raises some very important issues down the road about that lump sum check. Mr. Feinberg, I won't be able to fish for 2 years. I want a check. No. I've been in communication with Dr. Ben's experts at West Florida. You'll be able to fish in 6 months. I'll give you a check for 6 months, not 2 years, because you're going to be, we think, up and running. Your choice. With neutral experts guiding me, getting the best information we can get, your choice. Some people say to me, we won't know for 15 years about any lasting damage to the Gulf in terms of shrimp or oysters. I don't know. We'll get the best information. But nobody is required to take the check. Remember that. The program is voluntary. Now, what are the critical issues you have to be aware of when you file a claim? 1, are you eligible to file a claim? I've received claims from 48 states. From Idaho, Massachusetts. Proximity to the Gulf is going to be critical. And that doesn't mean 48 states. I can't be entertaining claims 90 miles away. I mean, you got to be along the Gulf somewhere. And your claim will also have me look at what industry you're in and how dependent is your claim on the natural resources of the Gulf. Proximity, industry, dependence on natural resources. Does there have to be oil on your property? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Do I have to be, does my fishing business have to suffer because I fish in an area that's closed? Absolutely not. If I own a motel that's not right on the beach, can I file a claim for lost business even though there's no oil on the beach? Absolutely. If I own a seafood restaurant and I'm 5 blocks from the beach and my business is down because I can't get Gulf shrimp or fish or oysters, do I have a claim? Absolutely. I will bend over backwards to find eligibility within reason in order to maximize the dollars that can be sent to people who have suffered as a result of this spill. I do not require actual physical damage to your property or your business. I am very cognizant of the problem of tourism being reduced as a result of the spill, the perception of oil on the beach. But if you're eligible, that does not mean that you automatically have a valid claim because you have to prove your claim. Mr. Feinberg, I make $5,000 a month as a fisherman, and I'm out of work, and I need $5,000 a month times 6 months. That's $30,000, please. And can you document your loss? It's an all-cash business. That's all right. Nothing illegal about an all-cash business. Can you document it? Do you have a tax return? I lost it. Oh, well, you lost your tax return. Do you have other documentation? Profit and loss statement, checkbook, some documentary proof that you've lost these wages? No. Will your captain state that you were paid $5,000 a month? Well, maybe. I must have some proof of your loss. And I assure you that you will receive a 1099 tax form required by law. That's why I'm wondering if the ship captain's going to vouch for him, but put that aside. The American people pay taxes, and you've got to corroborate your claim. Same with a business. Mr. Feinberg, I'm losing, $22,000 a month in my food processing business. Here's my income before the spill. Here's my income after the spill. There it is. You've proven your claim. I have a new business. I don't have a history of income. But here are my sunk costs, my mortgage for the business, my hired help, the receipts. Here's my contracts going forward. It's not mere speculation. Here's what other businesses in my field are doing. Thank you. Here's your 6 months of emergency payments. Eligibility is first. Proof is second. If you're eligible, and if you can prove your claim, and I'm not asking for a lot of documentation or evidence of proof. On emergency payments in particular, we will bend over backwards to get the money out the door as promptly as possible. Your claim has to be complete. We've got to have sufficient documentation to process the claim. You will not be juggled around among 5 different claims officers or 6 evaluators or 7 of this. We're going to have a centralized system. We're going to keep, at least initially, all 35 claims offices open in the Gulf. We're going to open one in Galveston, Texas. The Attorney General of Texas insists that we have. He's right. We'll have an office in Galveston. BP doesn't have one there yet. We'll keep all of those offices open. We will continue to allow people, we'll change the name, it's not BP anymore, but you can walk into those offices, make an appointment if you want, and not be pushed around. If you don't want to go to those offices, if you just want to file online, August 23rd, the website, Gulf Coast Claims Facility, will be up and running, and you'll be able to access your claim or file a claim and prove it online without ever going to an office. The information you provide is private with the facility. It is confidential. It will not be submitted to federal or state agencies. It will remain sealed with the facility. We will provide aggregate statistics and data to Senator Nelson and others as to how the program is working, where it has fallen short, how it can be improved. The data, without reference to any individual name, will be summarized in the aggregate and provided. But rest assured, your privacy and confidentiality in submitting this information will be maintained. One final point, then questions. As I've traveled around this state, as well as the rest of the Gulf, I do want to mention that there is one group, the real estate agents and the real estate brokers, who I believe personally, I'm a lawyer, I've examined these claims, my own personal view is they do not have a legal claim for their loss. Nevertheless, this program is designed to do what is equitably the right thing to do. Senator Nelson and others have urged me to make sure that on an emergency basis, there are real estate brokers and agents along the Gulf that are suffering as a result of the spill. I do plan, you have my word on this, to set aside a certain amount, earmarked, even though I don't think under the protocol you have a valid legal claim. I do think that it is necessary to set aside a certain amount targeted for real estate brokers and agents to get them over the current emergency that they confront. And I do plan to do this. I think it's the right thing to do under the circumstances. And I am now in the process of segregating those funds. I'll be meeting with representatives of the real estate agents and brokers tomorrow in Washington at a meeting where this will be discussed further. So I do think it imperative that we help in that regard. Now, that's the sort of the summary of how this program is going to work. I do hope that everybody who believes they have a valid claim with the right proof will file a claim with the fund. Remember, one more time, for the first 90 days until around just before Thanksgiving, emergency payments will be accepted without any requirement that you relinquish any of your rights. I urge everybody, take advantage of the emergency program to come in, have your claim evaluated, and paid promptly and in a systematic way. Remember, finally, one more time, the program is entirely voluntary. If you would rather not come in, if you would rather file a lawsuit or go see BP directly, your choice. Your choice. I'm here to serve the people of Florida. Do not be misled by my accent. And I'll now, at Senator Nelson's suggestion and Dr. Ben's suggestion, in fact, and also at Ms. Emerson's suggestion, take questions here on out. And you have the short straw, right?
I got the short straw.
Okay.
Call the first person, Natalie.
We're going to call speakers up one at a time. You're for the 2 minutes. Approach the podium. The first one will be Mike Pinzone. And so, Mike, if you would go to the podium. And then also the next 2 people, if they would be close by so they can go to the podium right after, is Rick Outson and then Art Bunton. So, Mr. Pinzone.
Mr. Feinberg, my name is Mike Pinzone. I have the contract for the Pensacola Beach Golf Pier, and I also have Papa's Pizza on the boardwalk on the Bayside. Mr. Feinberg, this has been, first of all, I do want to thank you for coming here. We do recognize your integrity and honor in these matters. You know, here on the Gulf Coast, it's not just about me, it is about our community. You know, we've suffered losses that last month I was down $88,000. The previous month I was down $59,000. The previous month I was down $46,000. This month is only into the 10th. I'm already down $30,000. I've struggled and I've done all those things that you were talking about, juggled 5 or 6 different people. I've done all those things. Mr. Feinberg, you got to understand that we're a God-fearing, hard-working community, and, you know, our crops were destroyed, and not only do we need to be reimbursed for our crops, but we also need for them to be replanted. We need advertising back to our community. We need to bring people back on vacation, and if we can't bring our locals out and encourage them and show them that, you know, the water is safe and that there is fishing, back on the Gulf, then, you know, the old saying is you can teach a person how to fish or you can give them a fish. Well, you can stroke as many checks as you want, but if we're in the same position 2 and 3 years from now, I don't think there's enough money to keep us going. You know, I've worked 12, 14 hours a day, I mean, to try to give a better life for my family and my wife and kids. You know, it's been degrading and very difficult to be calling every week, sometimes twice a day, looking for these monies that we've been promised.
Would you wrap it up, please, sir? I hate to do
Out
that to you.
of everything that I've done, I'm ready to settle. I'm ready. I'm done. I can't keep calling and begging for money. I'm ready for somebody to stroke me a check.
I can tell you this. I'll evaluate that claim. We're less than, all right, that's fine. You leave that with me. That's all right.
It's for you.
And you know, I can't tell you standing here
I
whether
don't
that's a
expect
valid
that.
claim or not, but I'll tell you one thing, you'll get an answer and you'll get a final answer promptly.
Okay. So can I bring this to you or something?
Mr. Feinberg, one question that's been coming up lately with BP is whether or not claims will be paid on losses in May. One of the questions is coming up that the OPA doesn't cover oil losses until it hits the shores. What's going to be your policy on that?
The oil doesn't have to hit the shore, we'll cover the losses if they're proven.
All right, will the 6 months begin in May, or does the 6 months, we still get paid for our losses up to when you take over and then 6 months out?
You'll get a total of 6 months payment. If you haven't been paid at all, May, June, July, August, we'll pay that plus September plus November. You get up to 6 months of loss.
Okay.
You may decide, I only want 6 months going forward, I've already covered my losses for the last 4 months, or whether that's entirely up to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir, Art Bunton. I have multiple businesses here. One of them I've just about lost. One of them is a Marine Institute, trains captains and such to go out in the Gulf. And we haven't had any business at all because nobody's getting licenses to go out in the Gulf. The other is, how do you hold the banks off until we get a check from you people?
I'm not Superman. I mean, I can't hold banks off. I'd like to think that local regional banks recognizing that there's a August 23 new Gulf Coast claims facility processing emergency payments, not for 1 month, but 6 months. You'll buy some grace time. I can only process claims. I can't become your lawyer with your bank. But the other point is this in your question. Insofar as you claim or assert a total loss, that your business is shut down tight, the question that's going to become of interest to me is whether that business will be up and running soon, that the fishing will be open again, you'll be able to go back out and start fishing, or whether there's a permanent loss to your business. And again, that's something I'll have to hear from you on.
Well, the other thing is, on the property values here, I've had a house for sale for about 16 months, well before this thing started, and it's down about 50% in value.
Yeah, but that's not a claim. If you have a house that you own, and you still own that house, and it's off 50% in value, but you have equity in that house.
But the equity is gone. It's on the water.
The equity is 50% of that equity is gone right now. You still own the house. You haven't sold it at a 50% loss.
We can't sell it because nobody wants to buy them.
Well, the question is, if you had sold that house at a loss, that's one thing. But what I'm hearing from around the Gulf is the desire of people to hold on to their real property and see what's going to happen. And I suggest to you that the fund will not recognize diminished property value unless, for example, I had a contract to sell it. As a result of that contract, I went and expended money on a second home, and now I'm out the cost of that second home. Now you've got a verifiable loss. But just diminished property value, that wouldn't be a claim.
Again, if you
Thank
don't
you
have
for-
income
excuse me,
coming
sir.
in,
Thank you
sorry?
for, I'm sorry, we need to move on. There are a lot of other speakers. Thank you, sir, for your questions. Next, Natalie.
Jim Summers and Jeff DeWeese are next. Jeff, if you would go, oh, there's Jim, and Jeff is next.
Hi, Mr. Feinberg. Senator Nelson, thanks for coming to Pensacola. We appreciate it. You've already answered some of my question in your opening remarks. My question for you is, I've had a claim in with BP now since the 6th of May with the MOB number for the vessel opportunities. They had clerical errors with that, never got called, called them. They say, wait on us to call you. With you taking over on the 23rd, the paperwork and everything is already logged in with BP. Is that going to be transferred over, and what kind of time frame are we waiting? Because, you know, somebody said the local banks, they might listen, but Bank of America don't care. I'm telling you, they don't care.
Once the claim is complete, so we've got enough to go on, we should be able to process emergency payments within 24 hours for individuals and no more than 1 week for businesses. Also, you mentioned the Vessel of Opportunity program. I have nothing to do with that. I've got enough problems. The Vessel of Opportunity program is between the ship captain and owner and BP. That is not part of a claims processing function. So if anybody has questions about the Vessel of Opportunity program, you're talking to the wrong guy about that.
Okay, so the paperwork that's already submitted to BP, that's going to automatically be transferred over?
That's right. You have to file a new claim. You can do that online. We're talking about 6 months, not 1 month of emergency payment. We'll update, if we have any need for any additional information, we'll immediately ask you, but we will process that claim forthwith.
Great, thanks for coming.
Jeff DeWeese, and next is Dr. Raid Amin. Doctor, I know you're here, sitting over there, from UWF.
Mr. Feinberg, thanks for being here today. Senator Nelson, we really appreciate this opportunity. A couple of things to keep in mind. I've been working with the claims process now for my clients for about the last 3 months. And what people have been submitting is just what they've been told by BP to submit, not actually valid claims. So if you take the entire cumulative lost profits calculation that would have been received by a claimant, that's not what BP's been paying. So if you just transfer that whole bucket of claims over, there's going to be some differences between what actually would have been claimed.
There may be, and I may need additional information in order to process the claim.
Okay. When do you foresee that the actual documentation your team is going to want to look at will be publicly available?
August 23rd.
Okay.
Monday, less than 2 weeks away, online, and in all 35 claims facilities. We're going to try and make it as simple and seamless as possible.
Okay. And then this is kind of on a macro level that we're seeing with our bigger clients. Bank regulators are starting to come into banks and devalue the underlying assets that are collateral. And as they are coming forward, they're devaluing that, which is basically forcing owners to come forward with additional collateral that they may not have. And it's also putting our banks in jeopardy because of additional capital requirements. How do you foresee the fund? Will it cover commercial bank losses if they have losses?
I don't see how it'll cover commercial bank losses. I don't see how. I'll look at the claim. There's an assumption it won't. I find it difficult. I mean, I think that once these claims are getting paid in 6-month groupings and people are getting 6 months worth of income, I'd like to think that that will go a long way, not maybe the whole way, but it'll go a long way in stemming this domino effect where banks are called on by regulators, who are called on then to their customers, who then call on their retailers. And I mean, I can understand the problem. I'd like to think that by giving the claimant 6 months of advance payment, emergency payment, that'll help stem that pushback from the banks.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Amin, and then next would be Susan Wolf.
I mean, 1 month is one thing. Asking people to come back month to me makes no sense. This isn't going to be solved in 1 month or 2 months or 5 months. So why not provide everybody a little bit more financial certainty? I must say, in the total scheme of things, it's not all certainty. You still got to worry about beyond 6 months. But as we see in the newspapers, as we read, things are changing rapidly. I hope for the good. Senator Nelson talks about the beginning, at least, of the end, and the beginning of the solution. And I'd like to think that that's going to continue.
Thank you all for being here. I have not been hurt at all by the oil spill, by the way. And I love your spoken English. It's beautiful. The way you speak English. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's just,
Have you filed a claim?
Actually, I'm a professor of statistics, and I just was looking ahead, things that could emerge 5, 10 years from now on the coast. This is the perfect timing to fund somehow by someone that the 5 states affected start collecting data in a uniform way, not something we see, for example, in cancer registries, where they switch things around from state to state, make it nearly impossible to make use of the data eventually to look at funds. So it's the perfect timing now, I think, someone from the top to tell those 5 states to work together as they collect data on marine biology and others, the IT people, to collect it in such a way and to make it available publicly, hopefully sunshine, that researchers can eventually actually figure out for all the Gulf the real impact of what has happened here. And that would be my suggestion, really, and asking if someone is doing this already.
Look, I think it's a great idea. The University of West Florida might be a great place to start compiling this data.
We want to do that, yes.
I think you'll see quite a bit of comprehensive research done into the long-term implications of this spill. But I want to make clear that in terms of the cost of doing that research, it will not come out of this $20 billion. This $20 billion is limited to all claims, not research or publicity for tourism or something like that. That's not on my watch.
But I think you have the ability to convey this to Washington, maybe.
Conveying is easy. Conveying,
Ken,
Senator Nelson
Well, he's there too, yes, yes.
has more clout than I do.
Yeah.
here's what you need to do.
Yes, sir.
You need to get in touch with Governor Ray Mabus, the former governor of Mississippi, who is now the Secretary of the Navy, and who has been appointed by the president for the long-term effects on this. He is setting up an apparatus that would address exactly what you're talking about.
But please help me with that.
Say again?
Please help me with that.
Well, of course.
Thank you.
Susan Wolf, and followed by Betsy Bowers. If you could make your way to the front.
Hi, I'm Susan Wolf. I'm Assistant City Attorney for the City of Pensacola. I appreciate your being here today. I heard from Senator Nelson that the claims for local governments will not be going through your process, but then I also heard, I believe that you had stated that the BP claims process is going to end because your process is beginning. I'm not sure where the local governments are falling in, and we've got several representatives of local governments here.
All government claims continue to be the responsibility of BP. Any government claim, even after August 23rd when I'm up and running, government claims must be directed to BP in Houston. I have jurisdiction August 23rd only over private, individual, and business claims, not any local, state, or federal government claims.
Thank you.
Betsy Bowers, and followed by Captain Wes Rosier. So,
Good afternoon. I'm Betsy Bowers, Associate Vice President for Internal Auditing here at the University of West Florida, and have had experience in filing more than $11 million in claims for hurricane recovery, have been appointed that kind of role for oil spill recovery. To date, UWF has invested more than $320,000 in the oil spill effort. And from my experience, I'd like to bring to your attention 3 concerns that we have as a university regarding the oil spill process. UWF researchers sprang into action right as the oil spill was announced. They collected sand and water samples as pre-data. They continue to do routine sampling about the quality of the waters along our shoreline with immediate daily postings of their results so that local officials can make critical decisions. We began our work immediately, and we worked tirelessly to get our information out in one day. The state agencies came in later and do not have the ability to do that quick a turnaround in regard to getting information out to our local officials, which has been the desired practice of our area. The state agencies have also indicated that the work and the actions the university has done is considered duplicate effort and have indicated they will not reimburse us for our activities. We look forward to resolving this issue because we find our issue is a quick response, much needed area, and we look forward maybe to possibly the Gulf Coast Claims Facility or the state to help us resolve that.
I can't pay you for your sampling. Somebody should. But I can't pay you for the sampling. The $20 billion must go to compensate individual and business claims.
Okay.
I'm not saying the money wouldn't be well spent with sampling, and it's not a lot of money in the total scheme of things, but I have no jurisdiction to do that.
Okay. The second concern that we have is, as a university, to be able to file separately versus being lumped in with the state, so that we can have truer accountability of the actions with our claims. And then the third concern that we have is related to the ability to file claims and information through summer of 2011, because right now we can't tell you the true effect of the enrollment.
Excuse me, Ms. Bauer, would you wrap that up,
Okay.
please?
Enrollment and revenue, and we just would like to be able to file that long.
I think that you're making some good points. Your desire to continue to seek information through 2011, again, this claims facility doesn't have that information. You'll be looking, I think, to other agencies and to BP itself for that information. Whether or not you're a state entity for purposes of filing a claim, I have no idea. That's for the lawyers to decide. I certainly would welcome your filing a claim if you're not part of the state, if you're not considered a state entity. That's a legal issue. Somebody will have to explain it to me.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
okay, Captain Rosier, and next is Will Dunaway.
Mr. Feinberg, thank you for coming. We appreciate you big time. My name is Captain Wes Rosier, 10-generation Pensacolian. I've been stomping these grounds for a long time, and so has my family. I did what I needed to do with BP. I did my claim. They requested certain information, income tax forms, credentials, captain's license, fishing license, gave that all to them. They realized right quick, as like you have said before, tourism is a cash business, and we handle a lot of cash money. So I gave them my income tax forms, and obviously they wanted to pay me off of my income tax forms. But I want them to pay me for my losses this year. And my question to you is, and I have given them this information, I have quite a few customers. Been doing this since I was 16 years old. I'm living in my 48th year. So I literally have thousands of clients. And I think I do a pretty good job on the water, and they all call me in advance, and they book trips. So I have what you may say is a contract to take those people fishing. And when the oil spill happened, I was having one of my best years. I was already 17 fishing trips up from where I had been in past years. So my summertime was looking really good. But every time someone turned on the TV and saw that oil just pumping out, calls after calls of cancellations. And I requested them to send me emails, those that could. So I have documented information that says these people booked a trip with me and they are not coming because of the oil. I want to know from you that when I go back to the claim office with my information, I want you to look at what I lost today, not what I lost in 2009 or my money's made in 2008 or 2007. Businesses fluctuate, change up and down. The University of West Florida, from my understanding with their economics department, they were doing a great job of keeping track of bed occupancies. We're saying this was going to be our banner year on the Gulf Coast. We were going to be in our breakout mode.
Excuse me,
I
sir,
want to
would
be
you get to your
paid
question?
on today, not what I made last year.
From what you say, you have a compensable claim. You have got documentary evidence in the form of emails or other letters or other booking information that documents that you had on pre-spill, you had all of this set up going forward. Post-spill, cancel, 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 cancel. Now, I haven't seen the documentation, but from what you tell me, it's a perfectly conventional, valid claim.
BP did not like me bringing all my spreadsheets in. I've got more spreadsheets than you can imagine.
Thank you, sir.
And by the way, I like pecans too.
Will Dunaway. And Donald Waters, you're next.
Sir, Mr. Feinberg, Will Dunaway. Sir, I have actually two questions. The first one is, what is the deadline for full and final claim submission when you talked about that?
The deadline for full and final claim submission right now, if I don't change between now and August 23rd, will be 3 years from the date of August 23. So it would be August 23, 2013.
And sir, in evaluating that, would there be a risk factor calculated into that as to who might bear that risk if you go on ahead and make the determination for a full and fair, or is it simply based on the documentation of the claim at the time, or losses at the time?
Documentation at the time, plus for a full and final payment, some hopefully agreed upon view of future risk. So that if you come to me and you say, I'm here because I can document that I've lost X dollars over the last 6 months, and I will not be able to fish for another year. I want payment for my past loss and the risk of not being able to fish for a year. Now, I will have, as the claims process, I'll have all the experts from West Florida sampling everything, EPA, everybody. Look, you say you won't be able to fish for a year. You can fish now. The fishing grounds are open. Now, your catch, and there may be some areas they still are testing, but we think in 9 months you'll be fully back to where you were in terms of the ability to fish. We say 9 months. You say 1 year. If it's a check for 9 months, you can say, no, you didn't give me enough. I don't want it. I'll be back next year or the year after, and I'll try again when I know more. Or you may say, give me that check. I think that's fair.
And then finally, sir, under Open 90, there's an appeal process if the responsible party does not make a claim payment that you agree with. Is the Open 90 appeal process to the government and the liability trust fund, is that out?
No, that's still, nothing's out. You have a voluntary right to come into this program. If you don't like the results after 90 days in this program, you have voluntarily, you have every right to continue your OPA appeal effort with the United States government.
If I could just clarify, since the process with Open 90 for the appeal requires that you first have submitted to the responsible party, and if the responsible party is out of the claims process for private individuals on August 23rd, how then will we submit if that's an option?
Because if you submit with us voluntarily, and we stand in the shoes of BP by your voluntary submission, if you don't like within 90 days where you are in our process, you'll have every right to go to the federal government.
So it's not in addition to it, you are stepping into BP's shoes
That's
for
right.
that process.
If you voluntarily decide to opt into the program.
Thank you very much, sir.
Donald Waters, and followed by Tim Kirby. So Tim, if you could be ready.
Good afternoon. Welcome to my home state. Thank you, Senator Nelson, for having me here again today. Thank Ms. Lynn Bannister, Laura, and Susie Quinn also. I work well with Mr. Nelson. Good to see you again, sir. You keep bringing up, we're going to be back fishing in 9 months.
I'm just using that as an example. I don't know.
But I got to explain to you, Mr. Feinberg, that we, as a red snapper fisherman under an IFQ program, which is moving in an upward direction, and we have forecasts to double our TAC within 5 years. And we have forecasted on data in which Mr. Nelson has worked with me very much so on fisheries data, and we've had numerous conversations with his stuff, and like I said, I've done some testimonies and stuff, but there's a big difference between fishing and catching, and that's something that you need to learn about. And we, in 2009, had a quota that was 5 million pounds, and in 2010, we got a quota that is 7 million pounds. And I would love, as Captain Russell Underwood, that you got to meet this morning in Panama City, which is a dear, loyal, and compadre fisherman, would like to sit down and try to educate you a little bit on recruitments, larvae, and the killing off of our filtration system of the Gulf of Mexico, because I've heard some of the BP people say, oh, well, the pollutants is coming out of the river. Well, we have a filtration system called oysters. And these oysters is not going to filtrate our Gulf, in which is going to create more of an unhealthy habitat. And we may be fishing, but we might not be catching.
Excuse me, sir, have you got a question real quick?
Let me respond to this, because we're not as far apart as you think we are. First, I'll be glad to sit down with you. You put a little group together to educate me on the realities of fishing in the Gulf. I think it would be enormously helpful to me to hear what you guys have to say about the long-term impact of the spill. Second, very important, I will listen to you and talk to the experts about what the future holds. I don't know. You seem to be saying that oysters, that there's going to be long-term, potential long-term devastation to the ability to catch quota. I don't know if that's true. Do you know if that's true? There may be no long-term impact. We've got to get the data. We've got to find out what's likely going to be the case. And I'm glad to sit with you in that regard, glad to sit with you and your colleagues.
All right, my point and my question is, and Senator Nelson knows, that we have a 3-year lag in data. We got 3 years of data that has been collected, that has not been used in a current stock assessment.
If you'll bring me your card, sir, we'll make sure he gets it and he can
Yes,
set
ma'am.
something up for you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Next is Tim Kirby, and followed by Leslie Powell. Make your way to the front.
Good morning. I really do appreciate you having this, and Mr. Feinberg and Senator Nelson, even though I didn't vote for you, but I really appreciate your tireless effort.
Maybe next time.
Maybe. Something that you brought up earlier, and I really do appreciate, and I know the first thinking about this is the fishermen and people in that industry, and I love them. I do it. I have the privilege of sitting next to Captain Waters this morning and got some really good stories. But something that you mentioned earlier really concerns me about the real estate side of it. I have a company. I'm from Destin. And actually, my first project I did, I built the Hooters over here on Pensacola Beach. So I do have some interest in Pensacola also. But I'm primarily a general contractor and developer and also real estate agent, all in my company. And the concern is, for me, is like it has been expressed through several people earlier that, I mean, we've been in a down market and everybody, knows that, but we were actually starting to see a light out there, early 2010. We were having investors and their tourist industry was picking up. But for me, the investor side of it, I mean, I can't borrow money anymore. My companies are so broke now, I don't have the ability to do that. But I did have investors out there, and I've just one particular one that I put a claim in for.
Did you get your question, please, sir? I'm
Yes,
sorry.
ma'am. And this is you scare me a little bit when you talk about, the real estate side of it. I mean, it's real to us that are in it. My claim in a nutshell. Had an investor come in here early this year, was doing some actual work for him. Showed him, he's already invested in our market down here, and we got our performance together and everything on property, homes we were going to build, and all this happened before this oil spill, and then about a month into this oil spill, he comes in and goes, I'm in this market already, but to move forward with some of these investments, is just
I'm
not
so
feasible.
sorry, sir, but could you please get?
And the question is, I mean, that's legit. I mean, and a lot of real estate agents, have that. And I know a lot of contractor friends have that. That's a real issue.
Look, I can give you a hypothetical where it's a much different situation than when we were talking earlier about homeowner real estate values. You're talking about, hypothetically, an investor where you've got money before the spill to build a home on the beach. Now, after the spill, the investors withdraw, you've laid out dough, you can't build that home on the beach. It's proximity to the Gulf. That's a far different situation in terms of a claim than somebody who says, I own a house on the beach and the value's gone down. So, in a sense, you're similar to a condo owner who rents a condo on the beach. Before the spill, I was getting great rentals. After the spill, I can't rent the place. That sounds like a valid claim to me. I've got to look at the claim, but you're talking about something quite different than just real estate values.
The problem we've had is through BP, I mean, and you'll have hundreds of people in here probably, I mean, you know, you call, nobody can give you an answer.
Well, I don't think BP's equipped to answer these
Well,
questions.
obviously, that's the case, you know, and I really appreciate you guys coming in here and taking this bull by the horn. By the way, I wrote you a letter last Tuesday.
Excuse me, sir, I'm
so-
sorry, but I've got a lot of people
and
that want to
and
speak.
your assistant, Amy Wise, wrote
Oh,
me
yes.
back. I
Amy's
appre-
here somewhere.
Is she? Well, I appreciate her writing me back and telling me, thank you.
Thank you.
Leslie Powell, and then we'll have Betty Evans and Jerry Cartwright after
Let me
that.
just remind you all again to please try to keep this to 2 minutes. There are an awful lot of people that want to speak, and I hate to keep interrupting you.
Mr. Feinberg, thanks for being here. My name is Leslie Powell. I'm with Legal Services of North Florida. As you know, the 5 affected states have pulled together the legal services programs in those states to try to address this in a uniform way across the states, and we appreciate the audience that you have given us to address the concerns that we in particular have for our most vulnerable populations and for low-income workers in particular. The question I have for you today is hopefully a simple one. If another draft protocol will be made available for comment before August 23rd, and if so, when? And then the same question with regard to a claims manual, a more detailed claims manual that we've heard is going to be on.
I don't know about a claims manual being available to the public, but the draft protocol certainly, make sure Amy has your address. I'll get that to you right away. Okay. Also, I want everybody to know, you've sort of triggered a point I want to make. There will be pro bono free assistance to any claimant who feels that they want a lawyer or they want some help in preparing their claim with the new facility. Nancy McCullough in my office is now setting up that pro bono organizational structure. We'd love to hear from you on that. Mm-hmm. And rest assured, yes, we will have pro bono free legal help for anybody who wants it.
Thank you, sir.
Betty Evans, and next we have Jerry Cartwright.
I'm Betty Evans, and I own 2 rental properties on Navarre Beach, and I have a small vacation rental property company over there. I represent about 17 other owners. In July, you know, I filed everything with BP. I went in, I asked, what do you need? Gave them all the documentation, and I just want to say they've been great. My adjusters worked well, we've gotten our money, all my owners have been paid, everything has gone very smoothly with them. My concern, and what I haven't heard, is what's happening to our July claims. I put in about 19 claims on August the 1st, haven't heard anything. On all the other claims, we had checks within 2 days. So we've got about $60,000 out there in these claims. We don't know where the money is, we don't know what's happening. Are those the claims we have to refile in August, or is that being handled differently?
Well, any claims that aren't paid by August 23rd, when you say refile, you've just got to come in and update the claim. You don't have to resubmit everything.
Okay.
But we'll check on this. I mean, it sounds to me, based on the way you've stated it, that you've got a valid claim and you ought to get 6 months' worth of rental payments. Okay. Or maybe not 6 months. You know, you raise an interesting question.
See, we file month to month. Our rentals change month to month.
That's, you're on to something here. I mean, you may not, your 6 month, your rentals are seasonal, I assume.
Absolutely.
So you might be looking for July and August a certain rental, whereas September, October, November, it's a different rental.
Absolutely.
And I think that might be the holdup. They may be trying to make some seasonal adjustment to your claim. I don't know. I don't see why it would for July or August, though.
Okay.
We'll have to check on it.
So they would be handling the July?
Until August 23rd, they're handling it.
Okay.
But I'm telling you right now, on August 23rd, you don't have to refile all this stuff. You can even do it online. Just update your claim, and we'll process from there.
All right. Thank you.
Jerry Cartwright, and followed by Samantha Yoss. Samantha Yox.
Senator Nelson, thank you for your leadership. Mr. Feinberg, I won't ask you for a reimbursement because you've already told me it ain't going to happen. We're one of the organizations, as the other 5 states, that provide direct technical assistance to businesses who have a claim with either BP, SBA for their economic injury loan program, or the state of Florida with their emergency bridge loan. And we've been working with hundreds of businesses, primarily on the Gulf Coast states, but I was informed earlier that we've actually had a business in Duval County that had a claim, and it was processed that was directly related to the fishing. I'm very glad to hear the sensitivity to a lot of the business people here who have had difficulties filing a claim. And that's a claim whether it's BP or any of these others that are currently available in Florida. And I hear in your voice the sensitivity and the receptiveness of being able to sit down and talk and discuss. I'm wondering about the reality of a claims office person having the Feinberg sensitivity or a website. And that's my question. Is that same type of attitude going to filter down to the claims office people?
It better, because my credibility won't last very long if it turns out that this is just a lot of talk and there's not money going out in an efficient way. Nothing destroys a program's credibility more than the inability to get the money out quickly, fairly, systematically. Now, you're correct, we will not pay out of this facility for any support services, legal, accountants, whatever, consultants, technical support. We will pay the damage claim. We'll provide pro bono assistance to those who need it. But the check will not include your lawyers, your accountants, your technical support, any of the support services that you deem vital to your submission. Can't do it.
If I may ask, just it's not even a question. Let me offer the SBDC network to you in that help with the technical assistance. John Goforth from Worley is here. I know that you know him very well. We've been talking about that collaboration, and we've had good collaboration with those 35 offices. So I extend our offer to you as well.
Well, that's terrific, and I've heard you before, and I'm also well aware of the work you're doing on behalf of the citizens of the Gulf, and not just in Florida. And we thank you, sir, for your efforts.
I thank you.
Samantha Yachts, and followed by Mike Matledge.
Hello, my name is Samantha Jackson, and I'm a wedding planner in the Pensacola and the Destin area. The majority of my weddings are actually held on the beach. I have brides that specifically come from Ireland, Chicago, Colorado to get married in this area. Based on your criteria, do I have a connection with the Gulf of Mexico sufficient enough to be eligible to present my claim to the $20 billion?
I think you do. I mean, are these wedding, wait a minute, before you start cheering, you know, I haven't seen the claim. I mean, are you in fact located on the beach in Pensacola?
Yes, I mean, basically the way it works is that my brides are specifically coming down here to Pensacola Beach or Destin, and we are specifically holding their weddings on the beach.
Well, it sounds to me like you're in a profession that depends on natural resources, the beach.
Okay, thank you.
And don't be too quick to say that. I mean, I have to look at the claim, but this is an example of a profession, wedding planning. I mean, you wouldn't normally think of that as a Gulf Coast natural resource business, like fishing, but the way you explain it,
right.
People come to you and hire you and retain you because they want to get married on the beach.
Right. Yes,
And they're
Mr.
afraid, even though it's not true, they're afraid that the beach has oil on it now, and so they're canceling their bookings. Is that right?
Canceling their bookings, or they're just not wanting to come down here, period, and have a wedding.
And you can show how they used to come down here.
Right, exactly.
And now they don't come down.
No, they don't come down here. I mean, I've really been suffering. I do have one more question.
You sure?
You won. Yes, I do.
Doing all right.
When I present my claim, can I present evidence from my own experts on the long-term effects of the oil on my particular business? And will the adjuster look at my expert's opinion as well as the fund's expert?
We'll look at it, but let me ask you a question. How long do you think people won't want to get married on Pensacola Beach because they're worried about the oil when there's no oil there? I mean, isn't it likely, I'm not an expert in weddings on the beach.
Right.
But isn't it likely that within a few months, people will be returning to Pensacola to get married on the beach?
Yes, yes, sir.
So, I mean, I'll look at your experts. They may say, for 10 years, nobody's going to get married in Pensacola.
Let's hope
but
not.
I mean, I'm just suggesting to you, you may have been damaged by the spill.
Yes.
How long is it likely, with hopefully the spill now, as Senator Nelson says, we're beginning to look forward now. How long is it likely that you'll be seeking, compensation from this fund for the long-term adverse impact of weddings on Pensacola Beach? I mean, I'm dubious about it, but bring your experts and let's see what they say.
Okay, thank you.
Mike Matledge, and followed by Jean Norman. Mike Matledge, Jean Norman, and then Maren DeWeese.
Mr. Feinberg, I'm Jean Norman with United Way here in Escambia County. We are a resilient community, and we have demonstrated that repeatedly in the last decades, most recently 6 years ago following Hurricane Ivan. 1 million meals prepared, 15,000 people helped with emergency assistance, and a grassroots organization known as Rebuild has repaired 3,700 homes, and they continue to provide mitigation for now 4,100 homes with more money being leveraged, continuing to on the resources that they identified. But a technological disaster is very different, and we don't know. Looking at what has occurred at Exxon Valdez and the research on the mental health side is something that is very unpredictable, and we know the impact will continue to grow. My question to you is, will you support it is a collaborative proposal, a request for funding for mental health services through Department of Children and Families, and also for case management through Catholic Charities, which has been...
No. This $20 billion is not to reimburse or to fund very valuable and important research and studies and case help. This money is available only for specific claims alleging damage resulting from the spill, where there's proximity to the Gulf, there's dependence on natural resources, and there's an industry involved. I don't think I have any right or jurisdiction under this $20 billion program to fund research into the impact of the spill, research into the long-term injury to the natural habitat, sampling. This money is reserved for individuals and individual businesses that had suffered damage. I'm not saying you don't have a valid initiative that you want to fund. That money either has to come from BP separate from the $20 billion, from the state, which may or may not seek reimbursement from BP, but I don't think, as you explained it, you're eligible under the $20 billion program.
Maren DeWeese, followed by Robert Rinke.
First of all, I want to thank UWF and the Chamber for putting this together today. And Senator Nelson, ironically, you brought Jimmy Buffett here one time, and I did vote for you because you said you'd protect the Gulf. And I want to thank you for your tireless efforts. You've been here since day one, and the daily information that you push out to the community and the leaders within the communities, I think has put us in the good position that we're in today. And Mr. Feinberg, welcome to Pensacola. My concern is two-part, and you've answered the timing question for claims, but as far as the different states that are involved, will claims be different per state?
No.
Not at all, so it's
No.
uniform across all states?
No, what I'm going to do is what I did with the 9/11 Victim Compensation Fund. Now, let me explain. Most of these claims that we've talked about, all of them that we've talked about today, involve business loss, wage loss, business interruption, fishermen, businesses, all of those claims will be governed systematically by the same standard which will build on the Federal Oil Pollution Control Act. So one size fits all in terms of systematic treatment of your business claim, whether you're in Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Texas, or Louisiana.
So multi-state claims, are they just in the state that you're in,
Same,
or how's
no,
that work?
no.
Okay.
They'll be treated by a standardized methodology. Now, where there may be differences is in death and physical injury claims. Those aren't controlled by federal law. Those are controlled by the law of Florida, Alabama, Louisiana, Texas, and Mississippi. In 9/11, there were people who died or were burned or physically injured from 48 states or 38 states. What I did there was apply the same standard. I took the law that was most favorable to the claimant and applied it across the board. That's what I'll do here. If somebody brings a physical injury claim in Florida, and Florida law is tougher on the claimant than Mississippi, I'll apply Mississippi law to the Florida claimant so that I'll use the best standard I can, most convenient and generous and sensitive to the claimant who makes the injury.
Thank you. And the other part of my question was eligibility. One segment or one community, marine contractors, even with contracts in hand, permits sitting on their desk, the contract has been canceled. They've had trouble having their claims accepted by BP.
They shouldn't. Based on that, those facts, marine contractors, contracts on their desk, permits, sitting on the waters of the Gulf, sounds to me like a valid claim.
Thank you. And then my final thing is that I hope your logic translates, as someone had said before, to all the workers. Is there going to be something online, sort of a logic model or
Yes.
flow chart that if this, then?
It's all will be online, and from your lips, does everybody listen to what I'm saying? You're correct.
Thank you.
Robert Rinke, followed by Wayne Cavalier.
Senator Nelson and Mr. Feinberg, thank you for being here. Mr. Feinberg, I met with you week before last in Destin concerning real estate, and we explained the nature of resort real estate versus general real estate, and thank you for showing the compassion and helping all these realtors that are in trouble. I also believe, after listening to you on different occasions, that you are going to do what you say you're going to do on the 23rd. We begged BP not to slow this process down and take people through pain. They've gone through pain. We have Lebanon Rinke Resort Realty Development and a shopping center on the beach. Several merchants have not been paid. Realtors have not been paid. It's been tough. But I believe you're going to do that. So my real question today for you and Senator Nelson is, in that meeting last week, I asked you to take a minute and listen to an idea, and you did. And you said, your quote was, I will take that, I hear you, and I'll take that up the chain. And 2 days later, and I don't know if you had this impact, but I think you did, maybe, we got $1.3 million for hotel vouchers and bringing music with national acts to the beach. And I appreciate any input you had in that. It was awfully quick. So we have dedicated through a Portofino Island Fund a stage on the beach, and we are looking at booking this music and these hotel vouchers. My point is that Rick Harbor with the Haas Center says that our economy based on tourism for Escambia County and Santa Rosa County is $1 billion a year. And we receive $1.3 million, and I appreciate that. The real point I'd like to make today is that I'd like to be part of and have several people in the community part of meeting with BP on a resolution or a way of overcoming all the network impact that's been destructive. That's got to be powerful and quick. BP keeps spending hundreds or at least tens of millions on image advertising showing that they're taking care of the disaster. It's really just fortifying in the minds of people the disaster. So we need a campaign with large dollars for television advertising, paying for hotel vouchers and condos and vacation homes, having a call to action that there's concerts, there's vouchers, and there's serious television to back it up. We might need $20 or $30 million. The most important part is we need some more right now, but we need a large dollar volume starting middle of February to kick off the next season, or the $20 billion won't carry the community through when you're dealing with a $1 billion a year tourism economy. So we'd like to be a part of a solution. We think we have answers. And all the money that's being spent through BP, we believe that for every dollar of lodging that's lost, there's $4 lost in the community, and there's a more productive way to put those heads in beds
Excuse me,
and
Robert,
stop
I'm gonna
all
have
those
to-
claims.
Well, I can just take that back up the ladder to BP. Again, not on my watch directly.
I understand.
Won't be part of the 20 billion. I can certainly urge BP to do more of what it's doing in terms of publicity and public relations and urging people to return to the Gulf. Input from the senior senator from Florida wouldn't hurt, and that might be something else that might be pursued.
Thank
But
you.
it's BP's responsibility.
We are starting to wind down our time, so we're going to take 2 questions and then check our time out. We may not be able to finish all of the questions, but we do have them, and we will present them to Mr. Feinberg.
Wayne Cavalier, followed by John Levitan.
Mr. Feinberg, we want to thank you for coming. Senator Nelson. Myself and my better half, Judy, we own, we're part of the tourist industry out here. We own 2 souvenir stores. We own 3 businesses. One that we started to build at the beginning of the summer, and as a result of the oil spill, we backed off on it. It was supposed to be open at Memorial Day. We just opened 4 days ago. We felt it was necessary to continue on with it because we were in contract with what we were doing. We already had thousands of dollars invested in it. My question to you is, our other 2 businesses are souvenir stores on Perdido Key, which is a small, very small island, as you well know, and it's a family-driven tourism island. We don't have all the infrastructure that Destin or Orange Beach and all that has. Our money for our entire annual existence comes from this 112 days of summer. And when you talk of a 6-month check, and I believe you answered my question to begin with, is that it starts from the beginning of the spill. At the beginning of the spill, we were 27.8% above what we did last year. So as a result of this first quarter, it carried us a little further than most people. You know, we had a stellar quarter. And, but now we went and filed our claim, and we filed our claim late, and they gave us a check of $5,000.
1 month.
No, sir, that's 1 day of loss for me.
No, but they gave you a check for $5,000. Was that, did they say that was for a month? Or
They didn't clarify
carry
what
it?
that was for. That was just some subsistence at the time. We lost $112,000 this month. We've already lost, and this is the slowest month of the summer, August is, because people are going back to school, people are gearing up for back to school stuff. We've already lost $15,000 this month. And we're not even 10 days into it. And actually, I don't think that I've gotten an accurate figure because I don't think I'm up to date. We've lost over $200,000 in this month. And my point is that we have to carry ourselves through the fall, through the winter, and buy inventory for the next spring and summer as a result. The 6 months that you're talking about, I'm just wanting to make sure, not to mention the losses that we endured from the other business that we had to postpone and money that we put into that and losses there.
You picked the 6 months.
Okay, that's what I needed to know. Okay, because that 6 months is definitely the money that we just lost. Over the next 6 months, we make no money. We pay to keep our stores open and keep our 10 people employed. And normally we have 18 people.
Seasonal adjustments are taken into account in the 6-month calculation, absolutely.
All right, thank you so much again.
Next.
John Levitan, and then followed by John Rivers.
Mr. Feinberg, I'd like to ask you a direct question. We are a very unique business. We're a C&D landfill, and we weren't affected by losing income. We've asked BP for no money. We just asked them to fix a problem that was created by them. We have a note We're like every American business. We have to carry 4 mortgages. One of our notes is renewable annually because the bank reviews it. The bank put in writing they wouldn't automatically renew it this year because of the BP oil spill. So they call the mortgage. I go to my attorney. What do they say? You only got one answer: file bankruptcy to protect yourself from them foreclosing. Bankruptcy attorney says they'll never keep you in bankruptcy. You're cash flow positive at all times. I'm stuck in nowhere land with a second mortgage holder who's telling me pay me or else we'll foreclose by taking the first, therefore killing the third and fourth mortgage. How do you put a number on that?
I'm not sure I understand the claim. You say that you're in a landfill company.
Right, landfill business.
A landfill business. And as a result of the spill, the bank is calling in your mortgages? Because, do you still, is your business still ongoing?
The second mortgage holder is calling it in.
Is your business still ongoing?
Yes, everything's fine.
I mean, I can try and get you a good lawyer, but you don't have a claim with the fund, I don't think.
So, in other words, they call the mortgage because they're allowed to. We have no way to get a new mortgage when we go into our first holder.
I can't believe that the mortgage holder's calling in the mortgage. You're doing it.
We're not the only one. I've had 20 other companies call me up.
In fact, I hear these stories all over Florida, that banks are coming up with different excuses in which to call the loans.
Correct.
And that is just a sorry commentary on the way people are doing business.
It's a direct, I mean, it's in writing. It's directly from that. Now, I went to our first mortgage holder. You know, coincidentally, we appraised for $29 million. We only owe $10 million on it. Our first mortgage holder says, we're not doing anything because we're not lending anymore until we figure out what this oil is going to do to everything else. And it gets worse because it's not affecting us right now because houses are already under contract. We take in debris. What happens 9 months from now when there are no new housing starts and everything because this panic was driven by the media saying this is so bad, everything's terrible? You know, it hasn't affected us yet because those contracts are underway. When the housing stops building.
I mean, I don't know what to tell you other than, and I'll take a look at the claim if you file a claim, but I don't really see that it's a claim against the fund. You've got one argument against the mortgage holder, but I'm not sure there's anything that the fund can do for you. I think it might be a lawsuit. I don't know.
So if I get foreclosed on, I have a claim then?
Yes. I don't know. No, I don't know. I don't know. Even if you foreclose, I'm not sure it's a claim against the fund. I don't know. It sounds to me like you've got a claim against the inappropriate filing, calling in of the loan from the mortgage holder.
It's an annual note. They can call it anytime they want.
Thank you, sir. I'm sorry to have to. We have time for one more very quick, succinct question.
Last one.
Well, if everybody knows me, I talk, so
Well,
thank
I
you
may
for
have to
coming.
interrupt you.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate you guys coming down here. My name's John Rivers. I'm a fisherman. Now, Mr. Feinberg, you say fisherman. I'm a charter fisherman, meaning I take people fishing. You keep saying the fishing's going to be open. Just because it's open for the commercial guys doesn't mean I'm going to get clients to come out to Pensacola Beach and hire me.
I agree.
Okay, so if you say 9 months, 6 months, my question is what if we don't get the tourists that come down and next year, next spring, I was having a great year for March, part of April, all of a sudden it cut off everything. So what do I do as far as, next year? What if?
You have to decide whether or not, later in the year, when I offer you a check and I say, sir, your charter fishing business, everything we've been told from the Chamber of Commerce and everybody else, your charter fishing business should be up and running in another 6 months, 9 months, a year.
Okay.
Here's a check for the difference because you weren't able to charter fish for a year.
Okay.
You may say, what do you know about charter fishing? And these people, these experts, I'm telling you, my business won't come back for 3 years. Don't take the check. Okay. Wait another year or 2 years before you resubmit your claim, or don't submit it at all.
The check you're going to offer, this, now, let me see if I understand this, and I'll try to be quick. The 6 month check, I was paid in May, and I was paid in June and July for my claim, okay? Now, I'm waiting on a check for August, and they said that they did a 6 month thing for me, okay? And when you
August, September, October.
Okay, I got a few more months coming.
Yep.
Okay. Now, what about November, December?
November, December, file a claim
Okay.
for full satisfaction. You won't come back again.
Full satisfaction for how long, sir?
As long as you think you won't be able to charter fish with your customers. And we'll see if we agree.
Okay.
If we agree, you'll get a check. If you don't agree, you don't have to take the check.
Last question. Taxes on taxes on the claim.
Absolutely taxable.
I understand that. Are you going to give us a tax break on any of this money?
No. We're not going to withhold anything either. You're going to get the full amount of your damage. You deal with the IRS.
Okay. What about self-employment tax?
Again, whatever the damage claim is.
Okay. Thank you.
He's on the board here for us, legislative chair.
Thank you for your patience. Thank you for coming up. I'd like now to bring up to close out this session Mr. Lewis Barrett Jr., Pensacola Bay Area Chamber of Commerce Legislative Chair and a trustee at the University of West Florida, our Vice Chair.
Thank you, Judy. We'd like to thank the Senator and Mr. Feinberg for being here today. If you'll join me in thanking them, please. We also want to thank the university and the chamber for providing this forum. I hope it's been helpful to all of you. It's another way for both the chamber and the university to service and serve our community and our businesses, and we do appreciate all of you for being here today. Thank you.